I had just finished a call with my half-sister, but a careless mistake left the connection completely open. Sister, the doctor just said Dad's medication costs went up again this month, so try to transfer the money soon. My name is Priscilla, a 29-year-old businesswoman currently managing a growing cybersecurity firm located right here in Tampa, Florida. For a very long time, I have been shouldering a massive financial burden by transferring $2,000 every single month to cover the expensive medical treatments for my father's failing heart. This regular financial obligation felt like an undeniable duty until that fateful afternoon in my quiet office changed my entire perspective. I tossed my phone onto my wooden desk immediately after dealing with that seemingly exhausting conversation, without realizing the screen remained brightly lit. The cellular connection quietly stayed active for exactly 7 minutes, 38 seconds, while I was preparing to review my important work documents. I suddenly noticed strange rustling noises coming directly from the speaker before a chilling burst of laughter completely caught my attention. Those unfamiliar sounds echoing through my quiet workspace made me freeze in my tracks instead of ending the call. What I secretly overheard in those following moments exposed a terrifying plot that eventually saved me from a devastating family trap. Welcome to the Revenge Mode channel, where we bring you the most shocking stories of family betrayal along with ultimate payback. Please hit the subscribe button to follow every single detail of this dramatic story right now before we dive into the dark truth. A sharp, mocking laugh echoing from the phone speaker immediately forced my footsteps to freeze in the middle of that deadly silent workspace. The pitiful crying facade they presented earlier had completely vanished to reveal the genuine malicious voices of my stepmother Catherine alongside my half-sister Mariah. They were loudly celebrating their successful emotional performance, while ruthlessly mocking my pathetic gullibility over the open cellular connection. I could hear the unmistakable clinking of crystal glasses as they apparently toasted to their brilliant financial deception right inside my own childhood home. "You see, Mom, I told you that idiot would obediently transfer the money, no matter what happens. She really is our family's walking ATM." "Of course she is, sweetie. Your wealthy sister has always been too blinded by her misplaced family duty to ever question my carefully crafted medical updates." Mariah snickered loudly through the speaker before Catherine chimed in to validate her daughter's cruel statement with immense pride. That was the exact moment the first devastating truth struck me with the force of a speeding freight train regarding my father Nicholas. Catherine confidently bragged about paying a shady local contact a hefty cash bribe to professionally forge those terrifying cardiac medical records I received last week. My dad actually only suffered from a very mild case of high blood pressure that merely required standard inexpensive daily medication to safely manage. She had deliberately exaggerated his routine condition into a severe life-threatening heart failure simply to extract maximum financial sympathy directly from my personal bank account. The sickening revelations continued pouring out of the glowing device when Mariah began boasting about her recent extravagant shopping sprees. The $2,000 I dutifully sent every single month for emergency hospital bills never even reached a pharmacy counter or a doctor's office. Instead, Mariah casually detailed how she secretly utilized those exact funds to clear her massive credit card debts accumulated from relentless, reckless spending habits. She laughed hysterically while describing the latest exclusive designer handbags she recently purchased using the exact money meant to keep Dad alive. Every single financial transaction was a coldly calculated theft, disguised as a desperate medical plea to manipulate my deep familial guilt. As if stealing my hard-earned income was not enough for them, Catherine proceeded to outline an even more sinister master plan for their future enrichment. She explicitly instructed Mariah to start planting subtle seeds of worry regarding Dad needing a significantly better living environment for his imaginary physical recovery. Their ultimate long-term objective involved staging a dramatic health crisis to pressure me into purchasing a luxury apartment located in the upscale Water Street district. Catherine meticulously explained how they would convince me to place the expensive property deed entirely under Mariah's name by citing fake tax benefits. They were literally plotting to strip away a multi-million-dollar real estate asset from me while pretending to care deeply about a sick old man. A heavy wave of initial shock violently crashed over my entire body, but quickly evaporated to leave behind a state of absolute chilling clarity. My hands hovered over the polished wooden desk without trembling, as I completely abandoned the sudden emotional urge to scream into the receiver or confront them immediately. I deliberately chose to maintain my absolute silence instead of prematurely alerting those two greedy parasites to their fatal technological mistake. Leaning closer to my advanced computer monitor, I swiftly activated the professional audio recording software I normally utilized for important corporate business meetings. I quietly captured every single syllable of that 7-minute, 38-second conversation to secure the undeniable legal evidence strictly required for my impending retaliation. On Monday morning, the quiet atmosphere inside my familiar coffee shop contrasted entirely with the violent chaos exploding inside my mind. I sat silently across a small wooden table from my best friend Chloe, carefully sliding my phone over to play that disgusting audio recording. Witnessing her sheer horror and absolute disbelief finally shattered my carefully maintained stoic facade, allowing a few bitter tears of profound betrayal to escape my tired eyes. That brief moment of vulnerability was the only time I permitted myself to break down before forcefully wiping away every single trace of emotional weakness. I desperately needed absolute mental clarity to completely obliterate those greedy parasites through a ruthless legal battle rather than wasting precious energy on useless grief. Immediately after leaving the comforting presence of the quiet cafe, I drove straight to the downtown corporate office belonging to my lawyer, Donovan. I confidently handed over the original digital audio file, while firmly requesting a comprehensive analysis regarding our concrete opportunities for a lawsuit based on current legislation. He meticulously reviewed the damning evidence multiple times with a deeply focused expression dominating his sharp professional features as he absorbed the sheer audacity of their deception. He carefully examined the precise legal implications surrounding their calculated theft, while cross-referencing the specific financial details I provided regarding those monthly medical payments. He finally leaned forward across his massive glass desk to deliver his preliminary legal assessment regarding the severity of their treacherous actions against me. Priscilla, this manipulation has crossed the line of a family dispute. It constitutes wire fraud and forging medical records under federal law. I will not let them freely spend my hard-earned money anymore, so please prepare all necessary legal procedures to kick them out onto the street. Donovan firmly nodded his head in absolute agreement, while immediately drafting a preliminary timeline for gathering additional irrefutable financial documentation from my banking institutions. He assured me that building an airtight prosecution required securing every single fraudulent receipt they ever submitted to justify their non-existent hospital expenses. My personal cell phone suddenly vibrated vigorously against the polished glass table surface right in the middle of our strategic legal planning session. Catherine had just sent a lengthy text message containing multiple high-resolution images displaying a fresh batch of forged hospital medication bills bearing fraudulent clinic stamps. She audaciously attached a pitifully worded paragraph complaining about Dad experiencing severe chest pains alongside his supposedly rapidly deteriorating physical condition that required immediate expensive treatments. The sheer timing of her manipulative message perfectly demonstrated how relentlessly she intended to exploit my lingering daughterly affection for her own personal financial gain. A wave of pure disgust threatened to rise in my throat as I stared intensely at those completely fabricated medical documents flashing on my screen. Swallowing my intense hatred, I deliberately decided to play along with their sick game by quickly typing out a deeply sympathetic response, promising immediate financial assistance. I passionately expressed my absolute devastation regarding his fictional suffering before proactively shifting the digital conversation toward their ultimate greedy objective to force their hand. I casually asked her about the exact progress of that luxury apartment project she previously hinted at to successfully lure the poisonous snake completely out of its hidden hole. Catherine greedily bit the tempting bait without displaying a single ounce of suspicion regarding my sudden enthusiastic interest in residential real estate investments. She hastily replied with overwhelming excitement, while immediately suggesting we should tour the expensive property together to ensure his future comfort during this fabricated recovery period. Within minutes, she successfully booked an official viewing appointment for the three of us to visit the luxurious model apartment later this exact same week. Her blinding greed completely overshadowed any basic cautionary instincts, perfectly setting the stage for the devastating trap Donovan was currently building. On Wednesday afternoon, the cool winds carrying salty moisture from the bay blew fiercely through the luxurious waiting lobby of the Water Street apartment complex. I stepped confidently into the expansive building entrance where I immediately encountered Catherine standing right next to Mariah near the front reception desk. Those two women instantly displayed deeply manufactured expressions of extreme anxiety upon noticing my arrival across the polished marble floor. They continuously released heavy dramatic sighs, while forcefully squeezing out fake tears whenever they mentioned the supposedly critical deterioration of Dad's physical health. Their highly theatrical performance would have completely convinced anyone else who had not already listened to that damning audio recording safely stored on my personal computer. We proceeded to tour the spacious residential unit featuring panoramic city views while listening to the real estate agent explain the premium building amenities. Mariah completely failed to conceal her bottomless greed as she walked through the empty rooms, pointing out various premium upgrades she suddenly desired. She shamelessly demanded the installation of the most expensive designer furniture available by claiming Dad absolutely required an excessively luxurious environment to properly recover his shattered mental state. Watching her blatantly exploit our father's fictional suffering to secure high-end interior decorations required every ounce of my professional self-control to simply maintain a completely neutral facial expression. We eventually sat down around the large dining table to seriously discuss the complex financial details regarding the upcoming property acquisition. Catherine smoothly leaned forward with a sickeningly sweet smile to present her utterly brazen proposal concerning the legal ownership documents. Priscilla letting Mariah put her name on the property deed will definitely help you avoid countless future troubles regarding complicated real estate taxes. So just consider this our way of shouldering the heavy responsibilities for you. That sounds perfectly reasonable. But you must provide his original medical records for my corporate finance department to verify the transparency before I immediately pay the entire house price with a single, direct check. I masterfully maintained my completely serene mask throughout the entire negotiation process without showing a single hint of underlying suspicion regarding their true, malicious motives. I flawlessly played the expected role of the wealthy, generous older sister who would blindly throw immense amounts of money at any family problem without asking any critical questions. Agreeing to purchase the massive real estate asset outright, without applying for a traditional bank mortgage, perfectly aligned with their wildly greedy expectations. My apparent willingness to effortlessly part with such a staggering amount of cash effectively blinded them both to the lethal legal trap closing tightly around them. Imposing that strict condition regarding the authentic medical documentation served as the ultimate mechanism to permanently lock my impending legal trap against them both. I deliberately framed the request as a boring corporate administrative requirement so they would never question my underlying motives for demanding those specific clinical papers. Securing the physical doctor signatures directly from Catherine would provide Donovan with the exact, irrefutable evidence strictly needed to confidently guarantee a federal fraud conviction. Catherine confidently flashed a victorious smile, while instantly accepting my non-negotiable administrative condition without a single moment of genuine hesitation or concern. She genuinely believed she held the absolute upper hand in this massive financial transaction by successfully manipulating my assumed daughterly devotion to my sick father. We officially concluded the viewing appointment by firmly agreeing to execute the final property transfer documents directly at Donovan's private law office. Both women walked out of the elegant lobby radiating sheer triumph while remaining completely oblivious to the impending legal destruction awaiting them later this week. Exactly 10 days after that fateful phone call, the final missing pieces of my perfect legal retaliation rested neatly across my polished oak desk. Donovan personally delivered a highly confidential investigative report generated by an elite private detective agency he recently retained to investigate the matter thoroughly. The thick physical document provided crystal clear evidence confirming the medical clinic issuing those alarming cardiac certificates to Catherine operated strictly as a fraudulent shell corporation. The investigators discovered the listed business address belonged to an abandoned warehouse rather than a functioning healthcare facility. Donovan explained how the perpetrators intentionally fabricated official-looking medical letterheads to deceive my corporate finance department into releasing the requested funds without triggering any internal corporate audits. The clinic issuing those heart disease certificates she sent is completely a shell entity, lacking any medical practice registration on the federal system. Donovan stated while pointing toward the damning photographs included within the investigative dossier. Simultaneously, Chloe successfully utilized her extensive professional corporate connections to legally extract the highly relevant financial tracking records from various banking institutions. Those detailed bank statements undeniably proved the $2,000 I wired every single month flowed directly into several maxed-out credit card accounts currently held by Mariah. The transaction histories explicitly detailed exorbitant spending sprees at luxury boutiques instead of covering any legitimate pharmaceutical expenses or necessary hospital treatments. Chloe even managed to cross-reference the exact dates of the hospital invoices with Mariah purchasing expensive designer items to establish an undeniable timeline of financial abuse. Excellent cleverly insert a clause guaranteeing the authenticity of those medical records right into the middle of the purchasing contract to permanently lock all their escape routes. I instructed him firmly after reviewing the overwhelming financial proofs. I subsequently decided to execute an unannounced evening visit to my childhood home, simply to personally verify the actual physical condition of Dad. We shared a quiet meal together discussing mundane daily activities before I subtly brought up the topic of changing his residential environment. I cleverly directed our casual dinner conversation toward future living arrangements, while carefully observing his genuine facial reactions to my probing questions. He looked completely bewildered by my vague hints concerning residential relocations or luxurious lifestyle upgrades in the downtown area. His visible confusion provided the absolute confirmation I needed to prove he remained completely ignorant regarding their greedy real estate scheme involving the Water Street property. Armed with this undeniable mountain of factual evidence, Donovan proceeded to carefully draft an incredibly sophisticated dummy real estate purchasing agreement specifically designed for our upcoming meeting. He masterfully embedded a lethal legal stipulation buried deep within the complex property transfer paperwork to spring our meticulously planned trap. This specific contractual clause legally bound the primary signatory to assume full criminal liability regarding the absolute authenticity of all submitted medical documentation. Signing that specific piece of paper would instantly transform their petty family deception into a highly documented federal felony, leaving no room for subsequent legal negotiation. We aggressively accelerated our final preparation timeline since the designated signing appointment was rapidly approaching by the end of the week. Donovan requested my presence at his downtown law firm during the late afternoon to conduct a comprehensive technical rehearsal inside his spacious glass meeting room. We spent several hours meticulously calibrating the high-resolution projector responsible for displaying those incriminating financial statements onto the large blank wall. I also thoroughly tested the surround sound system multiple times to ensure the recorded audio file played with maximum acoustic clarity without any potential technical glitches interrupting the playback. We systematically eliminated any possibility of equipment failures to guarantee the impending confrontation would execute flawlessly when those two women finally walked through the office doors. At 9 o'clock on Friday morning, the atmosphere inside the downtown law office felt bizarrely suffocating, despite the central air conditioning system operating at maximum capacity. Dad cautiously entered the spacious glass meeting room first, while being closely followed by Catherine trailing right alongside a highly arrogant Mariah. Those two women deliberately dressed themselves in ridiculously extravagant designer outfits that felt completely inappropriate for a standard morning legal meeting regarding a sick relative. Mariah proudly clutched an exceptionally expensive leather handbag secretly purchased directly with my hard-earned money, while constantly displaying a deeply condescending attitude toward the entire office staff. "Hey, receptionist! Bring me a glass of filtered water with some fresh lemon immediately. I do not have all day to wait around for these tedious procedures," Mariah rudely commanded a passing legal assistant. The completely unapologetic tone in her demanding voice further highlighted her toxic sense of entitlement that had grown exponentially since they began stealing my corporate income. Observing the intimidating formal environment of the prestigious corporate law firm, Dad clearly exhibited visible confusion regarding his required physical presence at this specific location today. He nervously glanced around the massive, polished boardroom table while struggling to comprehend why buying a simple family apartment required such intense, high-level legal oversight. Catherine swiftly leaned intimately close to his ear to whisper a highly practiced lie about this gathering merely being a standard administrative procedure strictly required for wealthy family investments. Her smoothly delivered, soothing deception successfully calmed his rising suspicions for the moment, as he obediently took a designated seat near the edge of the long glass table. Donovan strode purposefully into the conference room, radiating an aura of chilling professional authority that instantly commanded absolute silence from every single person present inside the room. He forcefully tossed a massive stack of complex legal documents onto the reflective glass surface to officially commence the crucial real estate acquisition meeting without offering any friendly greetings. The highly seasoned attorney immediately coordinated the formal proceedings by strictly requesting official government identification cards from all involved parties to accurately verify their legal presence on the documents. He methodically examined each plastic identification card with intense scrutiny before returning them to their respective owners with a perfectly blank expression, revealing absolutely nothing. Following our meticulously rehearsed strategic plan, I maintained a perfectly serene facial expression while politely requesting Catherine to physically hand over the original clinical medical files. She instantly flashed an incredibly smug smile before confidently sliding the thick manila folder across the smooth table surface directly toward my patiently waiting hands. Her brightly painted face vividly displayed the profound satisfaction of a highly greedy predator firmly believing she was about to secure a massive financial windfall without any consequences. Donovan swiftly extracted the specialized medical commitment form deliberately hidden directly beneath the primary purchasing agreement to present it forcefully to my stepmother. "Catherine, the law strictly requires absolute transparency. Please sign to confirm this medical commitment record before we proceed with transferring this multi-million-dollar property asset," Donovan stated with icy precision. She did not exhibit a single ounce of hesitation before decisively grabbing the offered luxury fountain pen to firmly sign her full name directly on the designated dotted line. By placing her legally binding signature on that specific document, she officially committed documented federal perjury, right under the extremely watchful gaze of a fully licensed attorney. The exact moment her signature was finalized, the metallic pen cap snapped shut, with a dry, echoing click that sounded exactly like a heavy closing prison cell door. Our highly elaborate camouflage procedures had finally reached a perfect conclusion, clearly indicating it was officially time to forcefully pull back the heavy stage curtain to expose their disgusting reality. Exactly at 10:15 in the morning, I coldly jerked my chin to silently signal Donovan to approach the only exit to firmly lock the heavy glass conference room door. The previously formal atmosphere inside the room instantly froze into absolute terror the moment Donovan deliberately refused to retrieve the highly anticipated payment check. Instead of finalizing the real estate transaction as expected, he swiftly manipulated the advanced ceiling projector system to illuminate the massive blank wall opposite our seating arrangement. A highly detailed spreadsheet containing Mariah's deeply incriminating credit card statement suddenly magnified across the entire vertical surface for everyone present to clearly witness. Those highly colorful financial documents explicitly showcased countless exorbitant luxury purchases utilizing the exact funds strictly meant for critical cardiac medications over the past several months. Without hesitating for a single second, I decisively pressed the playback button on my prepared digital device to unleash the ultimate devastating truth. The extremely mocking tones mixed with those incredibly cruel insults spoken by both women instantly echoed with deafening clarity throughout the completely soundproofed meeting space. Every single vile syllable regarding their calculated financial deception reverberated against the thick glass walls to completely shatter their carefully constructed illusion of familial love into irreparable pieces. The immediate physical reaction from those two greedy perpetrators was absolutely pathetic to behold under the glaring fluorescent office lights. Catherine experienced a catastrophic loss of facial color before frantically lunging her entire body forward in a desperate attempt to violently rip the computer power cord from the hidden floor socket. Donovan swiftly intercepted her chaotic movement with a stern verbal warning regarding the severe consequences of destroying legal evidence. Meanwhile, Mariah practically turned into solid stone right in her expensive leather chair, her entire physical form trembling uncontrollably as her fabricated moral facade was mercilessly ripped away for everyone to judge. The most genuinely heartbreaking moment of this entire intense confrontation arrived while witnessing the absolute emotional collapse of my elderly father. He appeared completely paralyzed by profound shock, literally struggling to draw a proper breath after personally hearing his own wife openly cursing his physical health. Realizing his very existence was merely utilized as a despicable tool for their malicious profit, completely broke his naturally trusting spirit in a matter of mere seconds. Catherine, did you seriously curse my failing health while utilizing my very life just to maliciously deceive my oldest daughter out of this massive sum of money? Dad demanded with a heavily trembling voice filled with unspeakable sorrow. Nicholas, this situation is entirely different from your current assumptions. Please listen to my explanation because I simply wanted to secure a much better financial future for our precious Mariah. Catherine shrieked hysterically, while desperately attempting to grab his resting hands. To deliver an absolutely lethal finishing blow to her pathetic excuses, Donovan forcefully slammed the massive private investigation dossier regarding the fake medical clinic directly onto the polished glass table. He authoritatively declared that her recent signature on that specific medical commitment form officially finalized all necessary physical evidence required for a severe federal fraud conviction. Her desperate pleading instantly died in her dry throat upon realizing her foolish arrogance had permanently sealed her own criminal fate without any possibility of a courtroom negotiation. That undeniable legal threat served as the final breaking point for the betrayed patriarch sitting quietly at the edge of the long table. Dad abruptly stood up from his comfortable leather chair while shooting Catherine a look filled with absolute, unadulterated disgust that practically chilled the entire room. He forcefully ripped his hands away from her desperate grasp to firmly turn his back on both crying women. He then walked purposefully toward my side of the table to officially establish a permanent boundary, severing all remaining ties with those cold-blooded scammers forever. Exactly 48 hours after that shocking revelation inside the downtown law office, a completely new order was established with absolute ruthlessness alongside undeniable finality. Donovan officially served a severe legal ultimatum directly to both women, aggressively threatening an immediate federal lawsuit unless Catherine, alongside Mariah, fully returned every single embezzled dollar stolen throughout the previous months. The undeniable threat of federal prison time effectively crushed their remaining arrogant attitudes into absolute dust without any mercy. Dad absolutely refused to tolerate this cruel marital betrayal by swiftly filing unilateral divorce papers at the local courthouse that exact same afternoon. He immediately kicked Catherine alongside Mariah out of his house onto the street, with absolutely zero shared assets to their greedy names. A devastating financial chain reaction forcefully crashed down upon Mariah when major banking institutions permanently froze all her emergency credit limits without any prior warning. She was suddenly forced to personally drown under massive toxic debt caused by her luxurious lifestyle because my generous financial supply was completely severed forever. She ultimately lost her precious designer bags to aggressive debt collectors while facing the harsh reality of living without a wealthy sponsor. Meanwhile, I proactively established an independent medical trust fund exclusively managed by Donovan to strictly ensure direct payments for legitimate healthcare services required by Dad. This highly secure financial arrangement also allowed me to permanently block every possible communication method from those two villains desperately attempting to beg for my forgiveness. Finally, removing those toxic parasites hiding behind fake familial bonds from my personal life brought me an overwhelming sense of ultimate freedom mixed with profound relief. I felt incredibly proud for utilizing pure logic alongside immense legal power to rightfully protect my hard-earned assets from those domestic predators. Moving forward without their constant emotional manipulation hanging over my successful career feels like taking a deep breath of fresh air after drowning for several years. The Revenge Mode channel proudly presents this dramatic story strictly for educational purposes regarding the establishment of healthy personal boundaries. We aim to convey a powerful message about handling severe family crises through pure logic alongside strict legal frameworks instead of yielding to emotional blackmail. Evaluating the situation objectively reveals how the female protagonist decisively protected herself by permanently severing all toxic relationships without any hesitation. The villains ultimately suffered the inevitable harsh consequences resulting directly from their own malicious decisions to financially abuse a generous relative. True justice was firmly served through meticulous documentation alongside unwavering determination during the entire legal confrontation. Looking back at this terrible chain of events reveals several profound lessons regarding the true nature of familial relationships versus financial abuse. Blood ties should never serve as a free pass for malicious exploitation or emotional manipulation under any circumstances. The most important lesson involves never letting unwarranted guilt or misplaced compassion cloud your rational judgment when facing completely unreasonable financial demands from anyone. Kindness only truly holds value when it is exclusively directed toward the right people who genuinely appreciate your difficult sacrifices. When confronting the bottomless greed of toxic individuals utilizing proper legal documents alongside undeniable factual evidence remains the absolute strongest shield to protect yourself alongside the people you genuinely love. Thank you all so much for patiently listening to the dramatic twists of my